Hello, welcome to the Northeast Ohio Media Group Candidate Debate. My name is Bob Sandrick, and today we're hosting a debate for the Cleveland Heights University Heights School Board. The candidates will introduce themselves in a minute, but first I want to go over the rules. Each candidate will have 1 minute to introduce themselves and explain why they're running. Then we'll ask questions, giving each candidate 90 seconds to answer and 1 minute to follow up if they choose. At the end, we'll allow 10 minutes for the candidates to ask each other questions with 60 seconds permitted for the answers. So let's get started. The candidates that we have here with us tonight are James Posch and Beverly Wright. And so James, you can go first and introduce yourself and tell us why you're running.
Yes, my name is James, but please call me Jim. I have 2 children in the Heights District. They're getting an excellent education at Heights. I feel I have many qualifications and many thoughts about the issues facing our district, but if there's one thing you need to know about me, this is it. We need a revised focus on excellence. To achieve excellence, we need to make our expectations clear to staff, students, parents, and guardians. We need to set a real measurements to evaluate our performance with the reports back to the community. Excellence and accountability will allow us to earn the respect from our community. I have to say I'm very pleased the district has recently put together a strategic plan that supports this issue. As we all know, a board sets policy that influences an organization's culture. They balance priorities against available resources, but board members need to work together as all actions require a majority vote. I was able to accomplish this on the library board as their president, and I hope to do that in the school board.
Okay, Beverly.
Hello, my name is Beverly Wright Baker, but I'll be running on Beverly Wright. I'm a native of Cleveland Heights. I was raised in the Cleveland Heights area. I also had a child, which is now 24 years old, that was also part of the Cleveland Heights district. One of the reasons that I want to run is because I've been very familiar with the school district for over the years. I was strongly involved in PTA. I've always had come to attend board meetings and get an understanding of what the board was about. And basically, I was approached to see and asked if I would like to run for board member. And of course, that was the furthest thing from my mind. But as I began to investigate and look into it, I think it would be a wonderful civic duty. And I just hope that the election works out for me.
Okay, well, thank you for your introductions, and we're going to go on to the first question. Okay, candidates, how does your work and or life experience make you a good candidate for the school board? What is your area of expertise? Is it finances, curriculum, or some other facet of government or education? And Beverly, you can go first.
Okay, I think pretty much I had attended Cleveland State University, and I was in the area of education working with adults, adult learning and development. I also worked with the County Head Start program, so I have worked with young parents and working with young parents and education in that area for a very long time. I understand that there is a very strong need for parents and parent engagement. And that's one of the things that I'm going to run on, because I think if parents are engaged, statistically, and research shows that if a parent is more engaged, it will also help with the child's academic success.
Okay, very good. James, would you like to answer that question?
Sure. Professionally, I'm a senior business executive. In the past, Crane's Cleveland Business has labeled me a serial entrepreneur. I have a specialty of starting technology businesses, and then I sell them to companies like Microsoft and IBM, who have used my technology and actually purchased my technology. But along the way, I've got expertise in the areas of finance, operations, technology, hiring personnel, leadership development, working on boards. So I think I'm qualified from my professional experience. But I'm also super involved. I'm super involved in the school district. I'm on their lay finance committee. I've served on that committee for about 10 years, if not more than that. For the last 7 years, I was on the Cleveland Heights Library Board. So I have a pretty good understanding of how boards operate and how they work and how you work with boards to get stuff done and how you change culture to accomplish your needs.
Okay. Beverly, would you have any response to that? Or?
No.
Okay. Okay. Okay, we're going to move on to the second question. What do you believe your responsibilities would be as a school board member? And we'll start with James.
Well, I guess enforcing accountability is kind of a big issue. When someone presents something to the board, whether it is a staff member or whether it's a community member, you really need to look into it. You need to research the facts. You need to determine if what's being presented is in fact accurate. It needs to be addressed. And then you need to see what you can do about it with your other board members. I mean, do you change policy to address it? Do you not change policy to address it? Sometimes you have to pick and choose your battles. Sometimes you can't address everything. But these are sort of decisions that you have to make.
Okay. Beverly?
Could you repeat the question?
Sure. What do you believe your responsibilities would be as a school board member?
I think one of my responsibilities clearly would be that they are responsible for the fiscal piece of the school district. Also, support to the new superintendent. I am just elated that she's our superintendent. I would like to make sure that she does what she's supposed to do as a superintendent and also help her guide the way to do the things that she needs to do, particularly with the strategic plan that they have set up and have researched and getting the 5-year strategic plan to assure that that goes through. So Cleveland Heights can be a premier district.
Okay. James, do you have any response?
I'd just like to add that Talisa Dixon, our superintendent, is such a hard worker. Yeah. Works on the weekends, works late, works nights. I mean, she is one of the hardest working superintendents that we've had. She's in the community, lives in the community, and these are things that I think maybe we, and I certainly feel valuable as a valuable quality for a superintendent, and support what she does.
Beverly, do you have anything to add? Or?
No.
Okay. Okay, question number 3. The district recently announced that it would make $5 million in cuts instead of going to the ballot for a tax increase in November. Now, the cuts include the elimination of close to 50 full-time positions. Those positions include at least 16 teachers, along with counselors, social workers, security monitors, a language and speech pathologist, office workers, and cleaners. Are you concerned that high-ranking administrative positions like high school principals or the assistant superintendent were not considered or were not included on that list? Should the board take another look at those cuts? And I believe this time we'll start with, I forget which one we went with last time. I'll go with James.
Sure. I do know that there are cuts that were made with things like guidance counselors, because my child is being affected by one of those cuts. The cuts are highly unfortunate. When you make cuts, they obviously need to be balanced. I don't have any of the rationale on why those cuts were made, and I think the decision on those cuts would be made certainly after one of us is elected on the board. But I think what you would want to see as a board member is multiple alternatives put in front of you. So if 5 million cuts need to be made, really what are those options? I mean, what did the district think through when they were making that decision? I mean, obviously staff is going to have a recommendation and the superintendent's going to have a recommendation, and many feel that you're sort of going against staff if you don't rubber stamp it. But I mean, there also needs to be some background that is shared with the board and then also shared with the public. Okay, well, this was option B that we didn't choose, and this is why we didn't choose option B. And yes, it included an administrator, but this administrator is doing stuff for unfunded mandates, and they're untouchable. We can't let this person go just because of whatever legal reason we can't.
Okay. Beverly?
I had attended a few board meetings, and it was my understanding that the reason that the board had decided to make the cuts was due to the fact that they weren't going to put a levy on the ballot this year. And it's really unfortunate that they had to do some layoffs and do some cutbacks. But I think the main thing that the superintendent was looking at and the board was to making sure they did balance the budget for the next year. And considering that they, unfortunately, last year, the last election, the levy did not pass. And it was either put a levy on the ballot, not sure whether it was going to pass or not, or making the cuts. And they decided to make the cuts. And, you know, it's unfortunate, but it had to happen.
And James, do you have anything to add?
I don't know.
Okay. Okay, we'll move on to our next question. Superintendent Lisa Dixon, both of you mentioned how hardworking she is. She's among the top 5 highest paid superintendents in Cuyahoga County with a compensation package of $246,500, according to a recent Northeast Ohio Media Group article. Do you believe this salary is excessive given the district's financial problems, and is there anything the board should do to address that? And I'll start with Beverly.
I don't think it's excessive when you look at what superintendents across the country make. I think looking back at her credentials and her qualifications, I think she deserved that salary, and coming in on that salary, I think the board made the right decision. I don't think the board should go back if she was offered that salary, should go back and look at adjusting that salary.
Okay. James?
If I recall, that number is also loaded with pension items.
Right.
So it necessarily isn't what you would find in her take-home amount. But it is what it is. It's a competitive salary. They had multiple people come in to help set the salary and negotiate with her. I mean, they had a headhunting firm that specializes in this from out of state. So they used best practices when they came up with the amount. I can't really question it because we weren't part of those negotiations, but I mean, if it's a best practice and this is what it takes to get a top tier superintendent that will save us money and grow the district, you know, when I say grow it, I mean you know, grow it from a successful perspective. I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. I mean, yeah, I think some people are going to be concerned that, gee whiz, I don't make $200,000 a year. Yeah, but I mean, this is a high qualified position, a high qualified candidate, and if she was in the private sector, I would bet Lisa would be making a lot more money than she's making in our district right now.
Okay.
So.
Beverly, do you have anything to add to that?
No.
Okay. More about salaries here, question number 5. The Cleveland University Heights schools spend more than $516,000 annually on school nurse salaries. 4 nurses earn between $93,000 and $96,500 a year. Most of those pay rates are more than 40% higher than the $65,000 mean salary of private sector nurses in the Cleveland-Elyria Mentor area, according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. Are these salaries excessive, again, for a school district with financial problems, and should the board address this, and if so, how? And I'll start with James.
I actually did a little math on this particular subject because it initially bothered me when I read the cleveland.com story. But there's another way to look at these salaries and what the district is actually paying. And I just did a little bit quick math compared to Shaker. We're essentially per student paying around $90 to $93 per student for the student nurses. If you just sort of divide your cost, the 500-some thousand with the enrollment. Shaker, the number is between 97 and 94. Shaker's doing what our people are doing. We have 6 people, we have 6 nurses, they have 8. Our nurses are more effective. I mean, when you look at an efficiency ratio, and we're actually paying less. Yeah, the salaries are high, but these are negotiated salaries with the union. I mean, does the district actually have to go in and actually say, okay, well, we're going to start, negotiating some of these individual rates down? Well, I mean, maybe, but I'm not a party to these negotiations, and there's a lot of things that the district does try to negotiate with the union. I'm not sure they're going to be spending their time dealing with 6 employees that are highly effective already.
Okay.
But I mean, it's a good point. It's something that should need to be addressed and probably researched more.
Okay, Beverly?
Well, I agree with James that because that's pretty high. I didn't realize that nurses made that much for schools, in schools. I think maybe the board maybe do need to look at doing something different, possibly maybe having one head nurse and putting in some assistants. I do think that salary for nurses for school is pretty excessive.
Okay. James, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, just sort of seeing what's going on in the classroom, it's really amazing the difference between the school nurse role when I was young versus now. I mean, for example, a ton of medicine that's given out. I mean, the amount of kids that are medicated for all different kinds of reasons, and the responsibility that these nurses have. It's no different than the nurses that you see in hospitals. But it's a very different role that you see with the role that the nurse has to play currently than it was when I was younger. Okay. And maybe a lot of these people that are sort of concerned about what these nurses do, I mean, they're just not sitting around. They're actually in teaching. I mean, some are teaching too. So.
Okay. Well, we're going to move on to question 6 now. And again, we're talking about salaries, administrative positions if they're necessary. In April 2014, a little over a year ago, a high school principal was put on paid leave after announcing there was a gunman in the building during a safety videotaping. She didn't realize students were in the building, and the students panicked. Later, she was reassigned as Director of Special Programs and Compliance, earning the same $108,000 salary as her principal position when she was principal. Now, do you know what the Director of Special Programs and Compliance does? Is that position necessary, and does the position have to earn that much? I'll start with Beverly.
Well, first of all, I'm not familiar with exactly what special programs and compliance, what the principal is doing currently. I really can't answer that question because I'm just not sure, and I'm not familiar with. I had heard about it vaguely, but I wasn't familiar with the whole incident that took place.
Okay. Okay, James, you want to?
I'm actually familiar with the incident because my daughter was in the school when it happened. Mm-hmm. It was pretty terrifying. But this is, principals have 3-year contracts. That is sort of the norm. It's very difficult letting someone go for cause. I really don't know all the details regarding this issue. But I mean, you just can't let someone go for cause sometimes because you face lawsuits. So what do? So you have a contract that you have to honor, and maybe you have an employee that you've got to make a business decision on, what do we do with this person? Mm-hmm. It seems to me that the district realized the best business decision was to put this individual in this other job. I don't know what the job is. I'm just not aware of what that person does. If I was a board member, I'd want to research it a little bit more.
Do you think the board should do that? That they should ask those types of questions, or?
Absolutely.
Beverly, what do you think?
Well, initially, when they placed her in that position, was that a board's decision?
That I don't know. Well, that was before I came along, but I believe it was an administrative position.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, a board doesn't have individual rights to hire and fire people.
That's true.
They have to approve hires and they have to approve dismissals. But it is a staff decision that actually gets made, and some business decision was made where this person is going to be best utilized in this one particular position. Do I have time to make one comment about this particular item?
Yes.
this is where a school board is sort of in a very awkward position because it really can't talk about personnel issues. I mean, so can you actually publicly go on the, I mean, if I was a board member, could I publicly, say, this person did X and they're very bad for it? I mean, because at that point, you're sort of an employee of the school district, although you have to be accountable for the community. But there's a legal issue on why you really can't question that, because that's going to be used against you, possibly in a lawsuit that will cost the district significantly more than what that salary is.
Okay. Okay, thanks. I'm going to go off the script here a little bit. I'm going to ask Beverly and James. Beverly first. What do you think are the one or two most important issues the school district is facing now? And if you were a board member, how do you think the district should address those issues? Beverly.
I think one of the issues, the most important issue as a board member that I would like to see, and I think that and it's kind of tough. It's more like engagement, parent engagement, okay, and community engagement. I think the board also need to address having more of a collaboration and a cohesive relationship with city government as well.
Okay. How do you reach out to parents? How do you get them engaged?
I think one of the things is just constant communication.
Okay.
Putting information out there, letting them know, come to board meetings, support board meetings, come to the school PTA meetings, see what's going on, but the information have to get out there. I just think that there's not, and not to say all parents, but there is some parents that's not engaged enough, and I always believe in if you're engaged in the process and in the policies, what's going on in your community, again, I think that will help to succeed with the child's education.
Okay. James?
I mean, there's really so many issues. I mean, picking one is almost impossible.
One or two?
Well, I mean, there's the accountability issue. There's the issue of building trust in the community. There's building bridges with cities. I mean, you talked about parents, so maybe I'd like to echo that. I mean, we find that there's behavior issues for some in our district, and many feel that if their kid goes to school, that's good enough. But there's parents out there that really aren't taking the responsibility to get their kids ready for school. And they sort of expect that it's the school's responsibility to do it. And we have a lot of kids in our school district that are like that. We have others that don't. I mean, so, and that just makes our district so much more expensive to run. I mean, you have kids that are coming into kindergarten that know their ABCs, and many could read. And you have kids that have no idea what an ABC is. So how do you deal with that, just like on the kindergarten level? And it takes a lot of hard work for our teachers to balance that. Kids that are sort of at both ends of the spectrum, and then the kids in the middle. And that makes it very, very expensive for our district to deliver an education that's equitable for everybody. And it also makes it very confusing for some, because some people don't trust the district because they think, well, gee whiz, I've got all these other kids that are not like me. Can I trust the district to teach my kid? So.
Okay. Thanks. Let's see. Do you believe that the high school renovation project is on the right track? Why or why not? James?
It's killing me seeing them knock down the building. I mean, there's great memories in that awful, ugly building, but it's my building, and I love that building because my kids were there. And it kills me seeing them to knock it down, especially the pool, because my kids are big pool kids. But it's got to go. Is it going to make the test scores better? Probably not. Is it going to make the environment for learning better, more sustainable? Is it going to be cheaper to deliver education? Yeah, it's going to be. It's going to give you more opportunities to learn. I'm not going to have to hear my kids, basically you're walking out the door wearing very little because it's going to be 100-some degrees in that building, which is a huge distraction. And some buildings some of the rooms will finally have heat in the wintertime. So, I mean, I'm looking forward to it. my daughter is kidding around that she's going to be part of the Wiley Trailer Park class of what, 2015. But that facility is going to be really, really nice. In the meantime, it looks like it's going to be done under budget, which is going to be a good thing. So I'm looking forward to seeing all this.
Okay. Beverly?
Well, being an alum of Cleveland Heights, graduating in '76, I am glad to see that they are finally renovating the building. And it was a need. I'm glad that they didn't totally tear down the entire building and rebuild it. So there's still some memorable parts of the building that, that's still there. But I just think that the age of Heights, it was a need for it. I think that they have been, just like I said, I've been going to board meetings, and the contractors, the architects, they have a team of people to tell you blow by blow what's going on. So I think they're staying under budget. I think they're doing an excellent job, and I think it definitely was needed.
Okay. Next question. Do you believe the district should seek another tax increase? If so, when should the district place a levy on the ballot? And how would you convince voters to approve it if you believe that it should go forward? We'll start with Beverly.
Well, levy's not going on the ballot this election, but I know one is coming up. And I think what we need to do is to just get out there. The community need to get out, because unfortunately, that's the way that the school is supported. That's one of the ways that the school is supported, with the levy. And I'm just hoping that if the levy goes on, not this election, but the next election, if it goes on, that the community will support it. I'm hoping that we also get the support of the city to push it as well, because it's going to be something that definitely is going to need it, going to be needed.
James?
Levies just sort of are necessary because of the way states are funded, or the way the state funds our education. I mean, there's lots of reasons why. There's House Bill 920. There's the whole issue of we get money taken away from us by every time a kid goes to a charter school at a disproportional amount than we get. We've got huge unfunded mandates. I mean, with the testing that actually happens. I mean, if you want to just stay at the status quo, you have to put levies on the ballot. If the district and the community, it's the community. If the community chooses not to, if they keep on failing the levies, well, then the district has to make cuts. I mean, it's real simple. I mean, do we want to make cuts? No. I mean, because every time a cut is made, there's going to be less advantage that a kid is going to get. And this just isn't unique to Cleveland Heights. This is unique to every single municipality in Ohio.
Okay. Beverly, do you have anything to add to that?
No.
Okay. You have time for one more question? Okay. So this is the last question I'll ask. In 2014, the district earned 4 A's for academic growth for the second straight year on the state report card, but the district struggled in other areas. For the second straight year, the district met only 7 of 24 standards that measure student proficiency. It earned an F in annual measurable objectives, which gauge how minority and disability groups are doing. Graduation rates barely improved. Renovated buildings are nice, but what should the district do to improve these scores? You mentioned a little bit before about parent engagement. How do you reach these students who maybe they don't want to learn? And I'll start with James.
Well, I mean, first of all, I mean, I look at home at 2 children that are getting excellent educations at Heights, but here, the buildings that they're in show that they're in failing schools. I mean, what kind of kid wants to feel like they're in a failing school? Who didn't want to label a school as a failing school? And then when you look at how these test scores are actually computed from the states, you realize an A isn't really an A, because in order to get an A in a district like Solon is very different than having to get an A in Cleveland Heights. It's just, I mean, they're not fair and they're not accurate. So first of all, I take exception to the fact that we have this testing system that's really designed for many political reasons not to be 100% accurate. And it hurts schools like inner ring schools where you have for-profit charter schools that the state would like to see come in and educate the kids. How can you fix the problem? Well, you really can't. I mean, we really have to communicate out to the public why we aren't succeeding in certain areas. We have room for improvement. I mean, we're not perfect. I mean, there's things our district needs to improve. And the test scores help that. Shaker sort of has this thing where they call measuring what matters. And I'd like to see Cleveland Heights to try to develop something like that so we can really have better benchmarks to report out to the community and more accurate.
What was that called?
Measuring that matters.
Okay. Okay, Beverly, would you like to?
Well, basically, I agree with all that Jim said. One of the things I think that, because I haven't been I have a 24-year-old, so I haven't been like closely involved in what's going on, the reason that they are having failing grades. I'm not really sure the reason behind that, but I think one of the things that the whole testing piece, I do think that some of the testing is unnecessary, and I think that they need to have a better way to measure a child's success. And I think that it needs to be caught on early on, not wait till they get to the high school level. And again, that's with parent engagement, and very important that parents are engaged in their child's education so they can make sure that they steer them so that they can succeed.
Okay. James, would you like to add something?
Yeah, I just keep on thinking of one of my daughter's friends that when she was in elementary school, kids would come to our house and they would sort of, rob the snack cupboard, and that was all a good thing. But this one would say that, oh, well, we took the math test, and it was the test that the state uses to compute the scores. And I think the quote is, oh, I just put B in every single bubble because I like B's. And it's like, you could have done better than that. I mean, come on. I mean, but this is the mindset. So then the school gets ranked on stuff like that, and it's just like, oh, come on. And these are good kids that do this. I mean, is it really a true measurement on the school, or maybe some of the kids that go to the school, and maybe on the day that the test is taken? So.
Thanks, Beverly. Would you like to add anything?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, now that's all the questions I had. Now it's time to open up the debate for the candidates to ask questions of each other. So are you ready for that?
Honestly, no.
Right.
Well, we're gonna give it a try, and we'll start with Beverly. You can go first, and maybe you have something you might want to ask James.
Okay. Well, James, with your children still being part of the district, and I've been very unfamiliar with the district, what do you think that the district can do better into making sure that the grades for the schools increase, or that we bring up those performances for the state and those grade levels?
I'd really like to focus on expectations and the strategic plan that you mentioned that you also like. I mean, it was literally just released on the website, I think, in the last day or two. But there's like 60-some pages worth of benchmarks with this administrator is going to do this by this date. They need to engage the parents to do Y. I mean, this is really a very, very detailed map that can be reported back out to the community, one, to build trust for the community, but also, I mean, just the whole concept of setting expectations is, if you know you need to increase, let's say, your graduation rate, and our graduation rate is pretty respectable amongst the average schools. I mean, we're right on the average of a graduation rate. But, I mean, for example, if you want to increase that 2 points, I mean, these are the things that maybe we can do to do that. And it's nice to see these things outlined and, see how we can measure those and see if it works.
Okay. So, James, do you have a question for Beverly?
I don't, but how about this? Is there anything that was not asked of you today that you would like to get out and discuss or mention?
Boy, I had it all prepared. Well, just one if I'm elected or if you're elected, basically I just have these wondering what's my expectation and my role as a board member. And I know that is to oversee the financial part, and I understand all that. But then again, by me being a community person as well and living in Cleveland Heights, I just want to make sure that I don't cross those boundaries and start getting involved in other things, which is the superintendent or which is the administrative responsibility, but that's kind of hard to do. So I would like to know if you, being a board member with the library, and you understand what the board's roles are, what would you suggest to make sure I don't cross those lines?
Well, I don't think you will. I mean, I think boards need to work together as teams, and they get stuff done, and they change culture as a team. They don't do it individually. But you just can't sit back and not ask questions.
Right.
You have to ask questions. You need to see what's going on. You need to listen to your constituents. You need to listen to, even some of the people on, some of these blogs that are never going to say anything positive about the schools just
Right.
because they're just not into saying positive things about the school. They're only looking for the negative. You have to address them too. You end up figuring it out, and you end up figuring out how you can make positive change. It's a balance of qualifications, but it's also a balance of what community that you're in, where you live. I hate to say it, it's also maybe a little bit about the color of your skin. We have many people in the Cleveland Heights district that are black. It would be good to have more black school board members. People of different socioeconomic classes. That diversity helps you.
Okay. And I'm just going to ask one more question regarding the board. Do you believe the board should publicly stay unified and all speak in one voice, or do you believe that a good, healthy debate publicly among school board members is a good thing? And I'll start with James.
Yes, they need to debate each other. Just as an, and this isn't an act. A lot of times there's a lot of detail that actually gets presented in packets that the board members are privy to when they're making their decisions. So it doesn't look like it looks like they're rubber stamping everything, but there's actually stuff that's actually being delivered to them to help make this. But sometimes you do need to question it. You need to acknowledge the fact that there was, certain staying with the sunshine laws, obviously, conversation that happened at this time where this was discussed and this is the direction that we want to go in because of this. And it's okay to disagree. I think that's healthy. I think it's healthy for staff to see.
Okay.
So.
And Beverly?
And I agree. I think a healthy debate would be good because it's okay to agree to disagree. But just the whole process, the way that the board meetings run, I kind of sat back and wondered, well, when do they discuss it? And they're agreeing to this, that, and such. But at what point, when did they really discuss the particular issue?
So you believe there should be more public discussion on the board now? Or?
Yes.
Okay. James, what do you think?
I've been to board meetings in a while, so it's kind of hard to compare, and I can go with the library. We had a lot of conversations in the library. We did a lot of discussions in our work sessions. A lot of decisions were made and these are public meetings, in our public work sessions.
Okay.
So to some who maybe show up in a meeting, it's like when you're okaying a line item on a resolution, it's like it's already been pre-discussed. In the library board days, you try to explain to people, we talked about this, and these are some of the things that we talked about, just as a sense of, just to give everybody some knowledge that you talked about it. But there has to be some disagreement. There has to be some. There's going to be disagreement because not everybody feels the same. So.
Okay. Well, Beverly and James, thanks for joining us today, and that's all we have time for. Please check back to cleveland.com to read stories about the debates, issues, and candidates for the upcoming election. Early voting starts October the 6th. Thanks again for joining us.